Hello, my name is Ashton Simmons and this is my Capstone reflection video. Let me start off by telling you a little bit about myself. I have been an RN for over 6 years at St. Vincent Hospital in Indianapolis, Indiana. I spent my first 2.5 years in the trauma neurosurgical intensive care unit and the last 3.5 in the post-anesthesia care unit. As a nurse, I developed skills from on-hand experience in ethical and practice standards, which has shaped my approach to patient care. For my capstone, I chose the subject of women's sexual and reproductive health from the options provided. My initial thought for the project was to look at the effects of the current state of women's sexual and reproductive health and rights in the U.S. on women's choice to have children. After beginning a bit broader and just researching the current state of women's sexual reproductive rights and health, my plan began to change. From my research, I was learning more in depth about the impact the restrictions and policy changes have had to women's sexual reproductive health and rights. Contrary to unfortunately popular belief, abortion restrictions do not just affect women seeking abortions. There are ripple effects across women's health in general, access to safe and quality care, and the U.S. economy. I was astonished at the state of sexual reproductive health and rights education in our country, as it is allowing widespread medically inaccurate misinformation to be taught in schools. Eventually, my project took shape, and I decided to research the impacts of restrictions and policies to women's sexual reproductive health and rights and how we can educate about it to make a change. I then developed an educational intervention to inform others and inspire action. In this video, I will use evidence-based practice model to explain the identification of the problem, development and implementation of the intervention, and evaluation of effectiveness. I will discuss how healthcare technology and governmental and nursing policies shaped my intervention. I will reflect on my initial predictions and my intervention generalizability and use it to my best practice. In conclusion, I will look back at my RN to BSN journey and examine my growth through the program, how my ethical practice standards have been affected, and my next steps going forward. While I knew there had been bans and restrictions put in place since overturning of Roe v. Wade in June of 2022, I was not fully aware of the extensive impact they were having. Throughout my research, I read about how forced pregnancies affect all aspects of a person's life and promotes disparities, that these disparities and decreased access to services has led the U.S. to have the highest maternal mortality rate of any high-income country. Pregnancy is associated with intimate partner violence. Women are being refused care in life-threatening situations, and the abysmal sexual reproductive health and rights education system we have in our country. I believe change starts with education and awareness, and improvements in sexual reproductive health and education has been shown through evidence from literature to contribute to poverty eradication, economic growth, educational gains, environmental sustainability, and reduce inequalities. Stars et al. 2024. Sexual reproductive health and rights education is not required in every state, and only 20 states provide medically accurate information. Baby Olivia laws are being proposed in several states and would mandate that sexual reproductive health and right videos developed by an anti-abortion group containing medically inaccurate information be shown as part of curricula in schools. Peruzin and Mariparam 2024. If we are not properly ensuring our children receive medically accurate information, how can we expect them to make informed decisions and protect their autonomy? Due to the amount of medically inaccurate and misinformation swirling around the internet and social media, my main focus of the intervention was to educate my participants, raise awareness to the issues women are facing due to these restrictions and bans, and combat misinformation. I want to inform people on the economic impact, ways to retain bodily autonomy through digital health technologies, how and where they can get involved in the fight for advancement and protection of our rights, and hopefully inspire further education and advocacy from the general public. Linking abortion access with less stigmatized forms of healthcare can educate people on what an integral and deeply embedded part of healthcare it is. Additionally, education about restrictions and bans to sexual reproductive health and rights and reframing them as government mandates that interfere with physician-patient relationships and thus harm women's health in general. It has been proven as a successful strategy to combat changes to laws in conservative states when the issues were put through to voters through initiatives and campaigns. Mannion, 2023. Over the course of the project, I met with a friend, coworker, and my father to get an idea for their thoughts, opinions, and knowledge on the subject matter. Particularly with my father, I was able to get an opposing view as he believes each state should regulate women's sexual reproductive health, care, and rights. I discussed with each of my participants personal experiences, what information they would like to know about, what they believe nurses' roles are, and what would inspire them to become a change agent. I also created an online questionnaire regarding people's thoughts, opinions, and personal experiences to cast a wider net and include a diverse population. I contacted industry experts at the Nurses for Sexual Reproductive Health organization and the Indiana chapter of the American Civil Liberties Union and conducted interviews on what their organizations do, how to participate, and how to begin educating and advocating for women's sexual reproductive health and rights. I decided to create a PowerPoint presentation with an audio recording disseminating the most pertinent information I discovered. I felt this would be a way for each participant or viewer to receive the same information presented in the same way. This will help ensure effective feedback due to the consistency. For the participants I have been meeting with in person, I again had an in-person meeting to play the presentation for them and have a brief discussion afterwards. Additionally, I emailed the presentation to several other people, again, to get a diverse and effective feedback. The Prosky ADKAR model of change management consists of 5 steps, standing for awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. An article by Penchev, 2024, page 94. 2021, page 94, summarized ADKAR as explaining, planning, and designing the change, awareness and desire, developing the tools for change, knowledge and ability, and finally, developing new capabilities through reinforcement. My hope is that this video intervention can bring awareness and invoke desire to change, share my knowledge of tools and skills to bring about change, and through reinforcement of individuals' acceptance and importance of their support and implementation of active change creates ongoing and sustainable transformation. In order to evaluate my reflection video, I created a Google Form document with open-ended feedback, questions, and had discussions in person with my 3 participants. The feedback I received was positive overall, and each person acknowledged learning something new and about the importance of education and advocacy. Several people expressed interest in more information and about getting involved. Further dissemination of the information to a larger population and their feedback is needed to fully evaluate the overall impact of my intervention. Prior to Roe v. Wade being overturned, 15% of women capable of pregnancy lived more than 60 minutes from an abortion facility. Immediately after, that increased to 33%. Janik, 2024. Medication abortion via telehealth increases accessibility to these services for individuals in remote and underserved areas where in-person services might be limited, inaccessible, or restricted. For those facing stigma, social or legal barriers surrounding abortion, telehealth provides enhanced privacy and safety. World Health Organization, 2024. Femtech refers to digital health technologies that focus on women's overall health and well-being. Femtech can include mobile apps, wearables, connected devices, and online services covering a range of topics, including menstruation, menopause, fertility, pregnancy, nursing, sexual wellness, and reproductive health care. Mehernazad et al., 2024. Femtech can also empower women to take control of their bodies and make informed decisions about their sexual reproductive health and rights through accessible and accurate information and convenient ways to track and manage their overall health. Alfwazan and Christian, 2023. A big concern with digital health technologies and femtech, though, is privacy practice and standards. Sensitive information can be exposed about an individual's sexual preferences and interactions, number of orgasms, birth control measures, pregnancy journey, including abortion and miscarriage, and mental health state of the women through data collection. Due to this data not being collected in a clinical setting, it is not considered protected health information or PHI under HIPAA. Additionally, femtech companies are not one of the institutions currently beholden to HIPAA policies. Data collected by femtech companies may capture what could be considered illegal activity depending on where an individual lives, which can become a channel to criminalize their users. Alfwazan and Christian, 2023. Therefore, privacy standards need to be established within the entire digital health technology world. If medical and sensitive data is going to be collected, it must be protected the same way as any other digital health record. Until there are privacy standards set for digital health technologies, femtech companies have a responsibility of making users aware of the risk that certain data could become evidence in criminal proceedings. They should also offer options for users to permanently delete their data, uphold the standard of data minimization by only collecting what data is essential to providing the service, and show substantial restraint in sharing any data collected. Alfwazan and Christian, 2023. The lack of medically accurate information being taught in our country inspired me to focus on education as an intervention for advancing and protecting women's sexual reproductive health and rights. Nurse advocacy plays a pertinent role in developing evidence-based policies to meet patients' needs and goals. Comprehensive sexual reproductive health and rights education and curriculum provides medically accurate, age and culturally appropriate content that is unbiased and does not promote a particular religion. When compared with other education models such as abstinence only, comprehensive education is more likely to be associated with a decrease in unwanted and teen pregnancies and intimate partner violence. Perkel, 2023. The International Council of Nurses, no date, defines nursing as encompassing autonomous and collaborative care of individuals of all ages, families, groups, and communities, sick or well, and in all settings. Nursing includes the promotion of health, prevention of illness, and the care of the ill, disabled, and dying people. Advocacy, promotion of a safe environment, research, participation in shaping health policy, and in patient and health systems management and education are also key nursing roles. The American Nurses Association 2025 Code of Ethics for Nurses states that a nurse's primary commitment is to the patient, and we must practice with compassion and respect for human dignity, worth, and unique attributes of individuals. It is vital the nurse establishes a trusting relationship with the patient and advocate for their health and safety during and the right to care. Nurses also have a responsibility to advocate for their patients, engage in social advocacy, and participate in civic activities in some capacity at local, state, national, or international levels. Fantasia, 2024. My initial predictions for the project were that the restrictions and policy changes had a more widespread impact than I was aware of. It did not surprise me that the impact's wide range, such as decreased access to care, including in vitro fertilization, the increase of intimate partner violence, the financial effects for individuals and the U.S. economy, and the country's sexual and reproductive health and rights education. I was relatively aware of each participant's feelings and opinions regarding women's sexual reproductive health and rights. I wanted to get varying set of viewpoints. My friend is an Ashiatsu massage therapist and has some medical knowledge. My coworker has the same unit experiences I've had and is well versed in medical knowledge. And my father, who provided an opposing viewpoint, has basic medical knowledge. I knew my friend and coworker would have similar opinions as I do, and my hope was to inspire action and participation from them in the fight for women's sexual reproductive health and rights. My hope with my father was to invoke thought and a desire for further education. As was mentioned earlier, comprehensive sexual reproductive health and rights education is associated with poverty eradication, economical growth, educational gains, environmental sustainability, reduced inequalities, and prevention of unwanted and teen pregnancies. My intervention of educating about women's sexual reproductive health and rights, ways to take control of their reproductive systems and futures, what advocacy is and how to do it, it would be therefore a valuable educational tool and could be utilized as best practice. A major benefit of designing an educational video intervention is that it can be shared in person, but also have a far-reaching potential via the internet and social media platforms. I previously mentioned the benefit of each person receiving the same information presented in the same unbiased method. The information is relatively broad within the subject and presents factual information from extensive research. The intervention is easily accessible and can be used across various settings and in multiple contexts. This RN to BSN journey has influenced me far more than I expected it to. From the very first course, I began improving my research skills to find reliable and accurate information. This helped me to approach each assessment without bias and increase the amount that I learned through my research. In several courses, ethical care and professional standards were included subjects in the assessments. This helped refresh my learning from my associate's degree and improve upon my understanding and application of following professional standards and providing ethical care. While I have always tried to put my patients first, show respect for cultures and ethnicities, and provide unbiased, medically accurate information, the assessments have allowed me to take a deeper look at my professional practice and inspired me to get involved in ensuring access to safe, ethical, and quality care. Upon reflection, the area in which I made the most growth was in my awareness of all the other factors of nursing practice there are. I thought I had an understanding of what my supervisors and managers' roles involved, but my eyes were opened to what goes on behind the scenes in terms of department management and education. I was also fascinated by the more niche areas of nursing work, such as informatics, nurse research, and community health. This Capstone project in general has inspired my desire to become a change agent in my community and my awareness of the importance of medical professionals' involvement in social advocacy and policy change. I have joined the Nurses for Sexual and Reproductive Health organization as a member and have signed up for information from the Indiana chapter of the American Civil Liberties Union. I'm excited to get involved and make a difference, even if it's just a small one. Since I was young, I have always felt that I was supposed to help people. I wasn't sure how, but I knew that had something to do with it. When I began nursing school at 27 years old, I knew I had found my calling. The driving force behind wanting to complete my RN to BSN program was to progress my education and pursue a career in legal nurse consulting. Throughout the journey, I held steadfast in my desire to fight for patients in medical malpractice and personal injury suits. That is, until I got started on my Capstone project. I have now developed a passion for social and patient advocacy, and impactful policy change. Who knows? Maybe after all of this, I will end up utilizing my cumulative nursing skills and become a political advocate. Thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate your help.